She's on? Okay.
Who's on first?
We're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order, and we have Ms. Smith on the line. She's a little bit under the weather, so she's meeting with us virtually. So first up, we have Coastal Horizons from Ms. Lloyd.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I am just here to ask that we continue our Coastal Horizons agreement. We have partnered with them we were trying to estimate the number of years. We think 17 or 18 years at this point, and they have provided multiple levels of support. The two primary ones that we focus on now is the Coastal ART, and I believe some more information has been requested about that, so we'll work on getting a presentation together about their services. And then we also partner with them to offer parenting supports. Those are handled outside of school. So no procedural changes to the agreement, just updating it for this coming school year. So if there are any questions, it's just asking for us to continue, or I'm asking for us to continue it.
You need my consent or you need it for today?
I do not need consent, it's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any questions? Any concerns by anybody? Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, and up next we have Mr. Pascal for the calendar change recommendations, and then I believe you're going to go over some testing data after?
I am,
Okay.
yeah. All right, good morning, everyone. The first one is actually based on a change that occurred at the end of last year. So at a superintendent's meeting statewide, state superintendent allowed for our schools to have a re-administration window for testing within the school year. So that has to happen within the last 5 days of the school year for any semester class, and it has to happen within the last 10 days of the school year for any year-long class. So for obviously all of our K-8 schools, the 10-day window for our high schools, the semester window of 5 for both. We also do have year-long classes. But with all that, every ounce of time matters for testing, because we last year did decide as a team, taking in all the stakeholders, we chose to have a half day originally or early release day, for the last 2 days of each semester, trying to work with families and some of the requests that we had heard from school administrators as well. However, with that opportunity comes a little challenge with testing. You cannot start an exam, an EOC, on those re-administration days, which would be the last day of each semester, and finish before what we needed to be able to get those students fed and then get them home. So I'm asking, right now it is not completely approved that it will continue, but we have a really good word that it is most likely going to be approved at the next superintendent's meeting. They're gonna share that we're gonna continue that same plan with re-administration being allowed on the last during the testing window, during the school days, and not after school as it once was. So with that being said, I'm coming before you to ask that we change the last day of each semester for the next 2 calendar years back to full days. That was the long and short of it.
Okay.
The short is that I'm asking for us to change it back.
So which days would that be? The stars? Is that your stars? Or
Yes,
your red
yep.
stars? Or the,
Yeah, the 19th of December and then also the 29th of May. And that would be for both calendar years, since we have next year's already developed. Tori went ahead and changed it for both in this same
what about
board.
early college? Does it affect them at all?
It doesn't, fortunately, because of their testing is on a different
Already,
day anyway.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Now, they had a full day anyway, so it was one of our regular school days. Any questions with the why or what's the rationale behind it? Did just want to say to the public and to any families, we were hearing them out. That was some of the survey and the feedback, but with re-administration opportunities during the school year, having to be able to make sure we give those tests throughout the whole day, which is what we need, really picking and choosing how we would be able to get students home and making sure that they got fed in time before we had to send them home. This is the best option.
Yeah. It's good you have 2 years out there so people can plan.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
That's a positive. Yeah. Okay, everybody good with that? All right.
All right. If I could get the mouse for the next piece. Excellent. Thank you. All right, we're going to go through the testing and accountability data presentation today. Actually, you saw the board report, quite a bit of slides whenever we sent this out. We are not going to go through all of those here. The public, anyone can view all of those. And all of the information I'm about to go over is really to show the public exactly what we have at our disposal now. It has increased over the past 2 years. So we have dashboards now that are available. There's a lot of information that any of us could use, and I wanted to share with you how we're using it as well as a district. So you'll see data, the public will see where we stand compared to the state in some areas. They'll see it compared to each other, but at any time anybody could click in as well to be able to share, to see exactly what we see. So I wanted to make sure this presentation really showed everyone that. So some of the slides we will skip over. But all of those are going to remain public, and all of it's already on the dashboards that are live now that we have out there. So first, this all was embargoed until the September 4th State Board of Ed. I just want to make sure everyone understands. We get the little bit of the preliminary data early on in really in the summer, not early in the summer, but near the end of the summer. We get some of that data right around the end of July, early August. We can't talk about it out in public yet. We share it with every administrator, all of those teams, and we can start acting and working on some of our school improvement plans, but we can't share it out in public until after the September 4th meeting. But now it is out of embargo. So I just wanted, for the public, just to explain what you're about to see. You're gonna see information on proficiency, and you're gonna see information on growth. I just wanted to quickly give an example to the public, because a lot of times in the news and just in regular conversation, the idea of proficiency and growth don't always connect. So just a simple example, let's say we have a student named Alex. Last year they ran a 10-minute mile. This year they ran a 9-minute mile. But the proficiency, so the state gives a proficiency cut line, right? For us, it's a 3, 4, or 5. They say that for that student to be proficient this school year, they have to run it in under 8 minutes and 30 seconds to be proficient, right? Even though this school year, he now ran a 9-minute mile, he's obviously not at the proficiency level. He ran it slower than the proficiency cut score. So I just want to make sure the public understands that that proficiency score is based on a set standard across the state. So 3, 4, and 5, that value is going to be specific to the state across the board. Growth, however, is going to be defined as you can see here. But that's where Alex ran a 10-minute mile last year, as I said. This year, EVOS predicts that Alex, based on all of his testing history, that he should improve to at least a 9-minute and 30-second mile. If he improves to that number or close to it, then we would say he met expected growth. If he stayed at the 10-minute mile, we would say he did not meet expected growth. And then if he ran a 9-minute mile, we would say he exceeded his growth. So I just want to make sure everybody understands the difference between proficiency and growth, because we're going to go through those slides and how anybody can review those as well, and then share some of that data. All right. We have new dashboards. These just came in the past few years. These are clickable links to anyone as well. I'm going to show you just some examples. So when we look in, and these are our actual scores, so these are 5 of the elementary. I could only screenshot 5 at a time. I'll show the next 5 in a minute. This is a new dashboard, which, and now it's been around for a few years now, but not everybody has used it to the level that they could, or been able to click into it as readily available as it was now. Now it's really shared out. We're sharing it out with our principals and our teams, instructional teams on a regular basis. We've just shared it out whenever this came live for us for this year, right when it was live, I guess about 2 weeks ago, with the updated information. Once you click in, we can click these boxes on that actual link, and we can go through by school, by subgroup, and then by multiple schools. In this example, I have 5 schools, and you can click any of these links here to highlight specific areas. Gain, loss, whether we're above the state, below the state, whether this is the highest it's been in the past 5 years or the lowest it's been in the past 5 years. So this is one example. I clicked gain. Anything that's highlighted is a gain from the year previous. So just from the previous year, if it's highlighted, it has grown from one year to the next. So like in these 5 elementary schools, you can see exactly which schools had increased in those specific elements. So in reading for Belleville, in Bolivia, reading as well. And that's going to be the achievement scores for proficiency. Right? Growth scores here under Jessie May grew in reading last year and in math. You can see that bar also shows our principals and our instructional teams how far they've come from their lowest point in the last 5 years to now their highest point in the last 5 years. This gives those schools a good picture when they're talking to their staff, when those principals are talking to the instructional team as well, and when we're meeting with them on a regular basis, where they were and where they are now. You can see the next one is the next 5.
Question.
Yeah.
So we've changed proficiency to achievement now on the new achievement score 80%, isn't that what a proficiency was?
Yeah, good question. So achievement score is actually what they achieved. All right. Proficiency is whether they met that like my example earlier. If I was proficient, then that is going to be the cut score of whether my achievement score is higher or below what would be proficient in that test.
Okay, so when you get a school performance score, it's 80% proficiency?
80% achievement score. So that's that.
It used to be called 80% proficiency. I'm just trying to understand.
No, the achievement score is the actual score. Yeah, go ahead.
They're the same. I mean, achievement and proficiency, they
So
use.
what are we going to start using?
Achievement.
Have we always used achievement and proficiency, or just proficiency?
I've always heard both.
Okay.
But on this
Because
dashboard.
I haven't heard achievement before.
Yeah, I mean.
So achievement measures proficiency.
Yes,
Achievement
achievement
is
is
proficiency.
proficiency.
Yeah.
I
It's the
mean,
measure.
that's,
It's the measure.
that's how I've always heard it.
Okay.
Because when they talk about the school report card, they'll say it's 80% achievement, 20% growth. That achievement is what percent proficiency is it? And it's the same thing.
Well, yeah, basically that. Just remember, proficiency is that cut though. If they were proficient based on the achievement score, that's everything to the right.
3, 4, 5.
Yeah, 3, 4, 5 for
It's
tested
the language we
subjects.
use for level.
Yeah.
Proficiency levels.
Yeah, good question. Just so that everyone understands.
It's supposed to be easy to understand, but you know.
No, yeah. I think you've got the achievement score is the score that the student achieved on it, but whether they were proficient or not, because we'll talk about kids being proficient or not proficient. That's based on that cut score of a 9-minute and 30-second mile that I talked about before. So whether they're proficient on the right of it or not proficient on the left of it.
So in gray, that means they weren't proficient.
So good question. So actually in gray, because I clicked this gain button here, anything in gray that you see the dot wise, they did not grow from one year to the next. All right. So if they did not see a growth or an increase in that, let's say an increase to make sure we're using the term correctly, then it would be grayed instead of highlighted in green.
So the
and
dot-
that's because I clicked this gain button right here. I wanted to specifically show you all how we can use these tabs as an instructional team to highlight certain areas.
So the dot, if the dot's in between the line, they either went backwards or they didn't,
You got it. Yeah.
I mean,
So
like Town Creek Elementary, I'm just looking at
Yeah,
it. The
let's look at
dot,
it.
it's backwards. I mean,
It's great.
it's going, yeah, it's gray, but the dot is also in a different part of the section. I
Yeah,
guess I'm
good.
looking at school performance score.
yeah, that's perfect. So this is a good example. Let's use the Town Creek Elementary. So this gray bar over the past years on this data right here, so from 22 to 25, that is the lowest score would have been right here at the very left. The highest score would have been to the far right. So in this case, for math growth score wise, they have the highest in the past since 2022. They have had the highest growth score that they've ever had. Yeah, so they've increased it up to that point. At some point in there, it doesn't have to be the first year, they were all the way down to this mark. So that shows us that they've increased quite a bit over the past few years, and now they're at the highest point that they've been. That also shows, this example here at supply. At some point, they were all the way to the far right of this bar. At some point, they were all the way to the far left. Right now, they're somewhere in the middle. They did, because it's highlighted in a darker color, that means they did increase from one year to the next. I would assume, and we could go in and look at it later with the actual team, that they were right here last year, and now they've increased a little bit from last
But
year.
at one time, they were all the way over to the far.
Mhm. Yeah, they were
So
all the
they've
way
gone
here.
backwards at some point.
They had
I
gone
mean,
backwards
obviously,
at some point.
if they had.
So
had that
the
other mark
supplies
before.
reading is at the lowest.
Right, so now supplies reading would be at the lowest growth that they have been in the past few years. Virginia Williamson is at the highest in reading. So that's where we can highlight any of these to be able to tell. And I can show it for the middle school and the high schools as well. Same thing, quite a bit of green here for middle schools in terms of the highest of the past few years. In terms of achievement scores, they've increased at LMS, Charlotte Middle, South Brunswick Middle School, and Town Creek Middle School. All of those increased from one year to the next. That's what that I highlighted on there. I could highlight any of these options here. And you can see it for growth as well, and proficiency, and performance scores. That's the overall between the 80% and the 20% here. And then the high schools. You can see where early college is here, the coast here, and then our traditional high schools, these three. You can see which ones actually increased by a gain, whether their letter grade increased, and then we can break it down by achievement in specific components here. Right. Questions on those dashboards?
And that is a state dashboard mandated by the General Assembly to allow folks to look at test scores across the state, so.
Yeah, you can go to each county. It's easy to maneuver though, because you can go to each county and pull it up and,
Yes,
I mean, it's,
you
yeah,
really
I
look
tried.
good.
Yeah, I want to thank Mr. Pascal for putting this in here. I think it's worthwhile to try to educate the public a little bit on how to navigate it, because I mean, it is a lot of information, but once you kind of learn the language, you can navigate it.
Well,
pretty
you can
well.
see how you're doing across, I mean, look at other counties and see how they're doing
That's right.
as well, compare.
Yeah, that's a great point. So you can click on any of these and go by subgroup, go by year, change the schools, compare it to a school that we find is close to our demographics and population in another district, things like that. And there's even other dashboards. I'm not going to go through all of them, but here's an example of North Brunswick, and you can click into their graduation rates. So this is one that we're specifically tracking. You can see where North was 10 years ago, where they are now. It shows all of that in comparison by subgroup. That's what all of
That one
these.
will make you dizzy. That graph.
It's like
That
spaghetti
graph, I'm
noodles.
like, oh, there's another one that's even worse as you go along, but anyway.
Well, and according
Yeah.
to the data, North Brunswick came out of low performing this year, so they did a great job.
They have
Right?
increased quite a bit. Yeah.
Can I ask a question about the growth numbers, and I guess maybe it also applies to proficiency. Last year, the coast didn't have any scores.
And this year they.
This year they do.
Yeah.
So what impact did that have on, so what I'm assuming is the high school students last year that were at the coast, their scores were reconciled against the high school that they're assigned to. Is that correct?
Yeah. So the.
And so now their scores have come out from under those high schools and stand for the coast. So what was the impact? So for example, North Brunswick, if it was the same cohort as it was last year, how would that have impacted their numbers?
Yeah. So technically, in terms of the big pocket of a high school, probably not as much as you would think, because think of last year we had 50 freshmen. If all of them were split relatively evenly among all three traditional schools, not looking at a large number, maybe somewhere between 10 and 20 per student, per school that would be disseminated. So they would be 20 scores that were at the coast, those scores would go back to one of those traditional schools. But when you're talking about the number of students taking, let's say, Math 1, that's a course that probably takes around 350 to 400 tests. That if that one school like North had those 20 students, could it affect it? Yeah, absolutely, it's going to affect it. One way or another, depending on how well those students did. Now those 20 students' scores will count at the coast. But you got the right idea. It is
So
moving.
different cohorts,
Yeah, that
this
group.
year and last year.
Yeah, and now that it's increasing, so last year was the first year we had enough scores that it could count in their own accountability model. And the more we have, obviously the bigger sampling distribution, we're going to be required to always have those scores there if we choose that model, which right now we are keeping the model. where we have those scores count at the coast.
So are you saying then that the improvement that North Brunswick has seen is more about what they are doing differently now and not as much attributable to the change in the cohort?
Correct, yeah. By the work that they're putting in, it is increasing. Those teachers and what they're doing, 20 students wouldn't make that substantial of a drop.
Is
Could
that
it?
all that come from North? 20?
No, I'd have to look. I'm just doing an estimate of 50 kids. How many? Roughly, that's the largest population. I'm just quickly doing some math in my head that it would be a relatively close to about 20 kids. I'd have to look at the actual address of those students.
Okay.
But yeah, so the increase that we see at North, you don't get that substantial of a change by a small sampling distribution of kids that may be at risk and may perform at that level, whether they're at North or whether they're at the coast.
Okay.
All right. And then just other dashboards, we're not going to go through all these, but these are different, honed into different scores, proficiency, we can go into growth, all of those dashboards are there, and it's a clickable link, and here, this presentation's online live. I know you'd said you had already clicked in and tried some of these as well. This is what our schools and our principals are doing. We're going to go over this a similar presentation at the principals meeting this coming month of how, because we sent out the information, but now we want to really work through with the principals on some different strategies they could use with each of their teams, school improvement team, MTSS team, and then their PLCs as well. Just an overall view of our academic, so our school performance grades and growth laid out in the state sheet as well. So this is actually on the state's website also. So this is the number of schools with specific school performance grades and overall. We only get the reading and math grades at the K-8 schools. And then the number of met or exceeded here. These are our participation rates, high almost across the board. We do have targeted areas to be fully transparent in the ACT and work keys that we have to write a plan for. We didn't quite get a 95% participation rate. That means more than 5% of those students did not end up sitting for the exam, work keys and or ACT. It looks like ACT.
So with the high participation rate, it gives you a true picture of how the county's really doing.
Right. So
So
that's
many
what
kids are participating.
You got it, yeah. Over 99%, so are participating in those. The state requires 95%, otherwise we get put on. We have to write our own plan initially. If that doesn't work, more steps are taken. We have not had to go to that level, but we have had to write a plan. All right, questions?
So what are, just
Yeah.
curious, what are the consequences for not taking the test for the student?
Yeah, so good question. It's not always black and white. They do not get the 20% for that score for high school, for elementary. We don't get the data to help support those children the following year. I mean, we have to really share with parents and students the importance of being able to see their final score, where they are, so that we can better support them in the future. For high schools, there's a clear line that we are able to use by the state that we can't have the same opportunity for in K-8. So those are the biggest issues, whether it's ACT or work keys, job readiness, preparedness for college. We have to sell them on all of the whys of why they have to sit for that exam. There's no test score or graduation requirement associated with it. We have to really pull in some sort of motivation, intrinsically or extrinsically, to motivate them to take those, to come in and be at those exams. So we need partnerships with our parents as well, making sure we're talking with our kids to come in, and especially for ACT and work keys. Okay, we're going to go through growth. A lot of these, just like the proficiency scores, you can see all of those, where we stand in the state. You can see all those in that presentation. I know you all looked at it as a board, but they're still there. Growth is the same. I've hidden some of those, in quote hidden. They're labeled as skip on the slideshow. But it doesn't mean you can't go back. The public can't go back and see all of them. But I wanted to go through how we're using it, and it does go through some of the actual scores. So we'll go through those now. This is the actual public dashboard, so we can click in anybody can click in now, and they can see what I'm about to show you with scatter plots, see where their school lies. We get to dive in a little deeper as a school district. But I'm going to show you a quick example here. If we were to click in, the public can go to public access, go to reports. They can click on accountability reports, or something I'm going to show today is this scatter plot. We can click in to the overall, all schools in the state. We can go by last year. We can go by accountability. And we can now view, this is a new dashboard to this year. We can now view every single school. You're like, it's way overwhelming. We can actually simplify that and highlight the districts we want. So we'll click in and we'll turn all of the Brunswick County schools to a star. And now you can see where we land among all of our peers in the state. These are all the schools. So if I were to highlight one, it'll show Town Creek Elementary. This is a growth index from positive 20 all the way to negative 25 over here on the right. And it just shows where this line of meeting growth is right there at 0. How many of our schools above that line, how many of our schools below that line. This one view is only one of the 3 main views. They can show you growth by percent of economically disadvantaged students. So that every school has a different percent of students that have a percentage of economically disadvantaged students. This is just one view of it. So I went to the first one. This shows you that some schools have more students that are economically disadvantaged, and then some schools that have a less percent of economically disadvantaged students. It gauges that out. What do we notice as school leaders? This is still a normal curve. I mean, everything's bunched, not a normal curve, but everything is grouped, close to that 0 meeting growth. Overall, that's where we want our schools to be at 0 or above, at least per the state at greater number index value than -2, which would say that our schools are meeting or exceeding growth. And at these points, you can see which schools at current moment are overall, between all math and English as well as science that are included, that have a growth index above -2. If I were to highlight right about here, any of these schools overall, their growth index is already over that -2, meaning they're meeting. If it's over a +2, which is right about here, then they're exceeding growth. So this allows us to look through now. I can go by students with disabilities. I can see the percentage based down here as a school leader now and look through. And this is what we're going to be showing a new dashboard for our principals as well. I could even highlight, which I'm about to do, different aspects of it. So this is another view in that same dashboard that is not public facing. This is what we get. We can highlight specific schools now in specific tests. So we're going to be showing the principals because this is a new dashboard. I sent it out by email, but that's never good enough. I want to make sure that we show the principals how they can see that. If you were to look at this dashboard really quick and you're looking at the achievement scores of our students versus the economically disadvantaged percentage in each of our schools, which is once again what the state uses quite a bit to share data out, we see a trend line. Okay, so this is a line showing that the more percentage of economically disadvantaged students, the lower the achievement level. So it's a pretty direct correlation. But you can see the schools that are pulling away from that trend line are either in the right, something positive going on there. You can see like early college as an example, pretty far away from what that trend line would be, along with some of these schools. These other schools are right on the trend line of what would be basically a regression line between achievement and percent of economically disadvantaged students. The further up, obviously above that line, the better. The further below, obviously worse for that data point.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Make sure I'm understanding it. So if you look at the 85% economically disadvantaged, that line, then it would appear that there are there are 2 schools on the median. I guess that's a median.
Mm-hmm. Trend line. Yeah.
There are 2 schools on it, 2 schools below it, and there must be 10 schools above it. That's interesting because we always hear so much about just economically disadvantaged students not performing as a group as well. it looks like there, where the school has more economically disadvantaged students than anywhere else on that line, as a group, they're performing maybe better.
Which ones are you talking about? Because overall, the trend is actually the unfortunately, the opposite.
I'm just saying, there's more schools above that line at the 85%.
Not our schools, but all as a group.
At the tail end
Like-
there.
Oh, yes,
Above
yes,
that,
yes,
yeah.
yes. These are approved. Yes, something's going on here with these 4 schools. Because these are individual schools, not school districts, but at these 4 schools, just in biology alone, these 4 schools here, or 5, you can see these 5, clearly,
That are the most economically disadvantaged in the state,
correct, yeah.
as a group,
Uh-huh.
are performing better.
Performing better than
Am
the
I
trend
reading
line.
that right?
Yeah,
Yeah, better than the trend line.
yeah. They're still the
Maybe
lowest
somebody
in the
needs to go see
state.
what
So
they're
that's
doing.
called grade instruction.
Somebody
That right
needs to
there
go
is
see
called
what
grade
they're
instruction.
doing, all right?
Yeah, yeah. So like these 5, I mean, you're right on the nail. So they are obviously they're still below achievement levels. They're at 346 or below. It looks like, but overall they're beating what would be a trend line. These are what we call outliers, right? These are all achieving close to what would be expected. I'd say early college outlier here, and this is just our one example in just biology. So we can break that down, and the schools get to break that down into every single category they test. That's what I mainly wanted to show you. The image of growth here. So this is just growth for biology, just giving you one example. I highlighted which ones. You can see the curve completely changes. Same economically disadvantaged percentile down here at the bottom, or percentage, excuse me, at the bottom, and growth index on the left. So this shows how growth allows us to really see how our students performed based on their predicted value. This is what schools will be able to use specifically soon for all of their, or they can use it now for all of their subject areas. We're going to show them this new dashboard that they can dive into with every other school in the state. Now, we can't see these specific state schools. We have to find out more information about that. The public one, this one can, which is what we'll use. Right, and then just a glimpse from 2023. This was just our schools alone. I switched the graph on you just to confuse you. Not really, I didn't mean to do that, but this is switched. This is growth now on the bottom. Anything to the right being positive, anything to the left being negative. Anything around this line, which I didn't draw, would be around a -2, or higher would be meeting, right, to about here. Anything above here would be exceeding growth. So you can see where we were in 2023, where we were last year in 2024, and then where we're moving in 2025, moving those schools index value-wise, growth-wise, closer to the 0 and then more into the positive is the goal. And then here's how it looks as a state with that same view where I switched the X and Y axis. So I really didn't mean to confuse anybody online watching either, but I did switch from those original views I had. You can, it looked more clearly in the data as it was spread out.
So how many schools are in the state?
Yeah,
Count the
right.
dots, right?
Yeah, 115 different districts.
Yeah,
It's probably on the
just
data
curious,
sheet I
yeah.
pulled earlier. I think it was closer to 3,000 different schools.
It's a lot of dots.
And then last few slides before I get into some of the action steps aligned to the strategic plan we're working through. But this is just an example also that we can use, and you all have access. I screenshotted all of the individual tested subject areas so you can see where we lie. But I wanted to give you all in the public a view and example. Since I just sent it to you and I didn't get to explain it to you, I wanted you to be able to take a minute to digest this as well and ask me questions. But we have this graph down here explains what you're looking at. Anything in the light green, the medium green here would be expected growth measure. Anything in the dark green would be nearing exceeding growth. Anything in the light green would be nearing evidence that we did not meet growth. Red would be not meeting, blue would be exceeding. These little hash marks here, or what looks like a parenthesis, these show that it is even greater than 3.0. And you have to look at now this number as a school. They'll have to look at this number to see exactly what that value was. So this is just an example of one area where we can see the numbers. I can see the graph, and I can see the number of students that took that specific test, biology in this case, this past school year. And then 2024, that school year. and then 2023 that school year. Everybody can notice the numbers continue to go up. And then we broke it down though. So I downloaded all of that data, and this is what is shared out with you now, but it's also shared with all of the principals. They can make a copy of this, and they can highlight and sort by anything they want. So once they make a copy, and I apologize, I can't do it live right now, which I'd like to. Once they make a copy, because they have editing rights, they can then sort by any of these areas. So if they wanted to sort by 2025, and which is what I did, and just see who are the highest subject test in EVOS, so in growth, who are the highest in what areas. So this is growth, so a 7.62, North Brunswick Biology. Math at Town Creek Elementary, a 6.01. Right? Those are areas where those teachers saw the most growth in fourth grade specific.
If you refresh, you can do it now.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Right. So now you can see where I could, and as a principal, I could highlight it. Doesn't look like I'm logged in. I'm sorry, Molly.
No, I gave access to Tori, so it should have been worked.
Yeah, she's not logged in. It's fine.
Oh, she's not like that.
Yeah. And then we can scroll down. So any areas where we're meeting growth in 2025, areas where we're meeting, and then areas where we're not meeting currently. And these are the areas, obviously, of focus. Not that all areas are not an area of focus, but these are areas of focus for our school administrators, our instructional team here at the district level, our instructional coaches. Why aren't we meeting in those areas? What can we do? And we can see, a trend over time in a certain area that we can work towards. We also did on the right here, we took the difference between just last year and this year, an index value. So this is, I have to tread lightly with this. These are index values, but technically I can see where an area grew a lot from one year to the next. So you can see Town Creek fourth grade math went from last year of a negative 1.03 meeting growth all the way to a 6. What happened, right? So now we get to ask those specific questions. At Town Creek Elementary School math teachers, why did we jump 7 points in 1 year? Index value. So that means they have a strong correlation to growth in those classrooms. Why? I would want to know. In the past 2 years, still increased by 5.66. Was there a change in teachers? Was there a change in curriculum? What were the factors there? How they implemented the curriculum? This is what the principals, once they dive in deeper, because I know you all wanted a big picture view of it, this is what they get to dive in much further on.
So what did they do?
Those are all the questions we're going to have to work through. I mean, we probably have some answers specifically for that group, but.
So I think the missing piece of this is those are two different cohorts of students as well. So we want to look at that cohort where they were, because obviously their growth was really the most. Go back, which one was it? It was fourth grade reading.
What do you mean, because the fifth grade came back?
No, it's specific.
moved
So
up there.
they grew from third to fourth grade within that. So we want to look at specifically what that change was. When you compare it to the previous fourth grade year to the current fourth grade year, those are two different group of kids. So we have to look at it, and there's two ways to look at it. And then we'll look at the staffing changes as well as one of the things that you want to look at, the changes. Were there any changes?
So when do we
in
do
staffing?
that?
I do that monthly, and we're actually going to talk about that at the end.
Mhm.
We do that on a no less than monthly basis with individual schools.
And we haven't got
And
the
they
teacher.
do it through their school improvement team with their staff as well. But as far as with our district support team,
Mhm.
we look at that on an increment of monthly.
And then something that I didn't share yet, but we haven't got the teacher-specific data yet. So that'll tell us the biggest picture in late October, early November. We'll get teacher-specific value added. So whereas right now, all we know is all the Math 4 teachers at Town Creek Elementary increased their growth by that number. We don't know specifically which ones had the largest. Maybe there weren't some that did. So that's where we get to ask the questions of, hey, what are you doing in your classroom? And at that point, we really get to dive even deeper when we get the teacher-specific data. And that'll be across the board, dropped all at the same time.
So we've had the growth data in an unembargoed status since when?
We got it about mid-August. We got the We got the overall, so we didn't get the
We didn't get
specific
this like
district.
2
We didn't get
weeks.
this much, yeah,
We
2
got this
weeks
like
ago.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, so we got the school-specific index value, whether the school met or exceed, they drop it in increments. We got the overall school value, just about 2 weeks ago. We got this specific information, just in terms of the subject in each school.
So
And
what
then-
was the growth, I mean, what was the growth data that we had back, we had some growth data at the beginning of the summer, I recall very clearly. Because that was when I, or at least in July, that was when I made the comment about the 8 schools at the bottom.
So the first round of data that we received was just whether or not for school report cards met or exceeded growth, and it was only for the school as a whole. We did not
Okay.
have any drilled down
Okay,
There was no-
so there was no
information.
math, no
We
reading.
No
just,
math, no reading.
we're like 2 weeks into having, we need to do the work of now dialing in. And I'll give you an example. This afternoon, we're meeting with supply, and this is
Okay.
part of our agenda, are the things that we're looking at right now.
And I'll say, we still, we take all these tests early in the year, and then we take it, I guess, most of them end of May. And we don't have individual teacher data until next month. So we have to really move quick when we get that data to really work with teams and support them, see who we can beg and borrow from, and who we need to coach. Things like that come after. So we get to do the big picture and then really zoom in to the individual instruction. All right. So this is the last part of the presentation today. I want to just share some of the elements and connecting it to what we do at the district level, what we're doing at the school level, because you're going to hear a lot more from them at their next presentation of what they're specifically doing at their school level. So you can see how we do get to zoom in much further, and that's where we'll move this next, and some of the strategies that we're connecting to the strategic plan in this next set of slides. And I just broke it down by all 3 levels. So you can see, obviously, we have different breakout sessions. I explained that. We're going to go through the data at the next principals meeting with this new information for specific subject areas. I'm going to show them all the dashboards. We're going to work through that as a team at the next principals meeting. And then we can use all of those and show them how they can use it down here at their school improvement team meetings, at their MTSS meetings, and then at their PLCs as well. So that's what these next few slides indicate, what specific related to the strategic plan and each priority and how we are addressing those at the school. So just want to make sure everyone in the public sees as well. We are focused on this 5-year strategic plan. We bring it up every time that we can in terms of meeting and what we're doing to improve our test scores and in terms of achievement, and also in terms of percent of students that are proficient, I should say, and then also growth. So these elements for elementary school, curriculum implementation, obviously we are adopting new curriculum across all tested subjects, a part of the strategic plan. We really want to see that core instruction increase. We want to see pacing guides in every classroom, plan to teach to the standard, learning targets, vocabulary, however we're thinking, all of that in our lesson plans, and we're working to make sure that that's true for all the new curriculum implementations as well. Academic MTSS, because obviously MTSS has behavioral as well, and student services as a whole. But in terms of academic, we're in elementary school, we're looking at enrichment or intervention blocks of time, really grouping our students based on some of the data we have, like in Dibbles and iReady. And then progress monitoring, to be able to inform whether we're going to reteach, we need to enrich each individual student, and breaking that down further. Quality of staff, principals are working heavily on this, either really trying to coach all of our staff in some way to make sure that we have the best match of talent for each tested subject. Sometimes you find that a teacher in 3rd grade truly has a strength for 5th grade students, and they will see more growth with those students. We have to make sure, as our principals change, that they get to know each of their staff through the walkthroughs, through the observations, and obviously through the summative evaluation. And then as soon as we get teacher value added next month, they'll be able to really work through and give some targeted coaching for all of those teachers as well. And then student services, maximizing time on task. All right, so using PBI strategies, behavior interventions to make sure that we are having the least amount of interruptions in class so that all students can learn.
Are these arranged, this list, is it prioritized?
No.
No, in different, we work on these by, depending on the staff member at all times, every time. So like, I didn't put these in any specific order.
Okay.
Yeah, good question. And the principals, like staffing, we have to work on that before school starts based on any of the historic data we have, things like that. Depends on the time. Same thing for middle school, but slightly different in terms of some of the terminology and some of the work that they're doing, but it aligns to each of those goals. Curriculum implementation, obviously the change in some of their curriculum there. Alignment in PLCs, they're specifically working with their PLC teams in weekly, or I assume bi-weekly at times, PLCs that are comparing not just vertically, not just within their own professional learning community, that's their group of third grade teachers or whatever it might be, but also vertically, aligning those standards to make sure that we're really not missing any information and covering any of those potential gaps from one year to the next. And then academic MTSS, they have what's called win time, or similar to what we have at the high school level, we call it flex, but meeting with those students as well, using projections for EVOS, different diagnostics in their software as well that they use for check-ins along the way, and then tiering their response also. Attendance and behavior for student services, really working through at that age, you start having a little bit more behavior coming out in middle school, making sure that we see early warning signs of that. How can we respond quickly and efficiently? How can we reward good behavior, teach good behavior through PBIS? All of those are in the strategic plan and asked of them whenever we are looking for specifics on what they're working towards. And then quality of staff as well. In that strategic plan element, we want to make sure that we're really building capacity within the building and maneuvering people where they would match the best growth. And then in high school, we have tried to, in the past 2 years, this year with Infinite Campus, we have had to really work the system as it is new, but creating a master schedule that truly reflects what the students need and what's going to give them the best opportunity to succeed. So in this case, one example that a few schools gave is sequencing EOCs so that they had more time. A lot of them tried to move them to second semester because we're semester based. Typically in an end of course test, first semester you have to have them, but it's a shorter amount of time based on the calendar law. So they're trying to be creative and moving some of those tested subjects to second semester. Staffing as well, matching what is a proven teacher in those subject areas, whether it's Math 1, 3, English, or Biology, English 2 or Biology. Switching those teachers around, giving them co-teachers where needed. If there are students with an IEP that allows for that, we try to place them in classrooms where we have a co-teacher as well. These are all some of the new steps that we're making sure that we're looking after as an instructional team at the high school level. Improvement cycles, so we now have walkthroughs. We share that data out on a regular basis with all principals and all APs. It has how many walkthroughs they've completed in the past 2 weeks, and it gives some of the data points that we're seeing in those classrooms. That's all new to the past 2 years. And then using PLCs, those we have been meeting on, but specifically the coaches, instructional coaches, are working on some standard protocol within PLCs for each group, Biology, English 2, Math 1, and Math 3, to address their needs as well, using things like check-ins, common formative assessments along the way as well. And then academic MTSS, we now have Flex. We are monitoring that to see and make sure that those students are being pulled out. It's only 35 minutes. It's not what Flex started at here in Brunswick County, which was about an hour and a half long time. It's now targeted for those specific needs, depending on the student, based on predictions, based on tests, based on the assessments that they have in that course, MTSS, behavior. We use it for major clarity now, bringing in students for CTE, CTE presentations. We use it quite a bit now to make sure that we're reaching our children in the high school level.
Mr. President, who Where do they have a separate teacher that does that, or they have
Yeah.
a separate, I mean, does somebody, their teacher or somebody else?
Yes, to
can do
both.
that?
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
actually a little bit of both. So sometimes it's the same teacher. Ideally, it would be they have a connection with them. They know what they're doing in the class. So if it's in math, English, or science, typically it's the same teacher, right? But sometimes for non-tested subjects, it could be other teachers.
So they do it during a regular class or a specific time?
It's
They're not-
actually in a different time. So flex for us is in between two blocks. It's another block of time, and they have to sign up by the end of the day on Monday at each of our schools for what their flex block will be for the remainder of the week. They go to advisory for the first day on Monday. They sign up for what they want, and sometimes they get placed. They don't get to, a lot of times, they don't get to choose. So if you, for whatever metric that school's using, it could be EVOS predictions, along with grades, along with test scores, they might be pulled into an English 2 block, right? They will be pulled into a Math 1 block twice a week.
So whatever teacher's available then?
Yeah, so that's where we split them up.
Okay.
Yeah. So you will have all the Math 1 teachers taking the Tier 3 level students in a high school for 2 times a week to support them specifically in Math 1 or Math 3 or English 2.
What are you doing with kids that don't need any support?
Yeah, so a lot of them have some sort of advanced opportunity. So some of them will have, they'll go to their art teacher and they will have another activity that they can advance in art. They might have an AP class that they're taking, and they just need extra support. That teacher's available probably 1 to 3 times a week just to support those students that are taking that higher level AP class. So there's a myriad of options
Can
now.
they take a walk around the track and get some exercise?
They can't just do that. Well, I guess.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah,
saying,
no,
I mean,
good question.
I mean,
They could, I guess, if it's
option,
associated
yes.
with a PE teacher, yeah. So or a physical education, they might have an opportunity for them to play a sport, things like that as well. So yeah, if they've been in the higher levels statistically throughout either in EVOS tested subject and all of their grades are looking good, they have more opportunities, more options, so to speak. And then they usually all have a club opportunity day. So typically maybe a Friday every other week. I know West and North I think are doing that. They'll have a club day where they specifically go to any of the clubs, which before you had to have a ride. If you rode a bus, you might not make it to a lot of the clubs. We're trying to make this a little bit more inclusive for them to be able to attend. All right, and then staffing as well, really making sure that we're matching our strongest Math 1 teachers in Math 1, strongest in all of those tested subjects as well. And then the alignment. So with student services, we have had a lot of work over the past 2.5 years now in student services at the high school level, really matching what our kids need based on what their intended outcomes are after graduation. And that is a huge focal point. A CTE aligns with that. Major Clarity is obviously involved with that. Now that we have Infinite Campus, we're going to be able to view and see that historical data to see if our students are really in the classes that they have asked for. And we're looking to see those outcomes for CTE continue to improve based on some of the scheduling that we have.
What's been the feedback on Infinite Campus compared to like Power School?
The initial shock is wow.
Yeah, that's the feedback
Not
I've
to
gotten.
not to be funny, but whoa, there's a lot different. It's they joke infinite clicks, things like that. I mean, it's just a lot. But I could not be more proud of Amanda Richardson and her team. They have truly made this as smooth as possible. It is never going to be perfect. Our data managers, we just celebrated all of them. That was Amanda's great idea. She wanted to go around and celebrate every one of her data managers. And in person gave them a gift and just told them thank you. Because that rollout is systemic. There is no other program that we use that every single child in our district is connected to. It has to be touched by everyone. So with that, and every teacher has to use it. So a system-wide change like that is a big feat, to say the least. And I have to say, commend her in public, but it has been a much smoother rollout, and I think that our teachers are prepared with the champions, we call them, in their schools, training them on what they need to do to be prepared for the next step. So is it perfect? No, but it's a complete change from what we were doing before. And now we're getting there to comfort and confidence is what I call it.
It's a more useful tool, I think.
It's a superior product.
Yeah. Compared to, I mean,
Yes.
I've looked at it through a parent that has it, so.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Once she understood it, she was like, oh, there's a lot
Yes.
of good stuff.
Well, and the biggest thing is it's easier to understand because it's Windows-based.
Yeah.
So like, you kind of, if you've ever used anything Windows, it sort of makes sense where you have to click. You do have to click stuff.
Yeah.
But it makes sense how you can get places. Whereas PowerSchool was a software that was built by, you know, a few people at DPI over 20 years. And they just kind of built it as they went along. So there were a lot of really great tools that had been built over time, but if you shut it all down and then restarted it and somebody new had to figure out where something was, it was not very, there's a word that tech people use for when things don't really make sense.
Not user friendly.
Intuitive.
User friendly.
It was not very intuitive.
Oh.
It was not very intuitive to a new person. Whereas, you know, something that's Windows-based, it's a little easier to figure out because most Windows-based products work the same way. You can
No,
find
but yeah.
And it connects and links.
Yeah.
Yeah, so with that, you know, just to finish off, we are working with our principals and our school leaders next. Our instructional team meets tomorrow. We're going to be going into a little bit more of the data at the district level, and then how we're going to support our buddy schools, so to speak, for school improvement team and MTSS to use the data now that is readily available to make those specific targeted decisions in terms of our action steps and plans. And you will see that. You will see in the principals' presentations a lot of this coming to life into their detail. You remember from last year, I know it's a long day, but it's a nice day to be able to see full picture what each of our principals are doing to improve their school specifically. We have growth that we need. You know, we have to grow in certain areas. We have areas that we need to improve in. They're going to be able to speak to that, knowing that we wanted you to see that we're supporting them through that as well, and we're going to be showing them how they can use the data to make those decisions. So. Questions for the presentation?
Thank you, Amanda, for celebrating your people.
Yeah.
They deserve it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was really good.
All right. Any other questions for me?
And I just wanted to say, just in summary, that we are not satisfied with where we are. We have high aspirations that are defined in our strategic plan about where we want it to be 5 years from now. We're now into year 2 on that 5-year strategic plan. I'll say that we've spent the last 2 years all across Brunswick County Schools spending a lot of time working in teams on a lot of foundational elements that we had to get in place in order to get on the right pathway to success, to get us to a point where we need to be so we can start aiming at all of our schools meeting or exceeding growth. That included having curriculums for all of our tested areas that were selected in a way that everyone involved had a say, which adds time to the process. And then starting to implement those curriculums. The first time you use a tool, you're not going to be as good at using it as the second or third time that you use it. But you know, when you're in a year-long traditional class, each lesson plan is for 1 day of that 1 year. You get 1 time to carry out that lesson plan. And then hopefully you reflect, you learn from it, and you make it better the next time that you're going to use it, which is probably going to be next year. And it's a little different in our high schools because they have the benefit of having semester classes. So they get to do it twice in 1 year. So the improvement can be accelerated in a high school. It absolutely can. When you look at numbers, you know, anyone that looks at statistics and data enough, you can break it down in all different kind of ways. When you look at data overall as a district, when you're talking about a grade level across the entire district, it can show you one thing. But then that number, when you start drilling down, you know, let's say you're talking about, I don't know, 4th grade math. We were talking about that earlier. When you have some elementary schools that are twice the size or more of other elementary schools, sometimes if a big school does poorly in 4th grade math as a team, it will overshadow 2 other schools that have much smaller 4th grades that did really, really well. And you wouldn't know that by just looking at the overall number. You got to drill down and look at the schools, and then you have to drill down the principals and look at each of their individual teachers. when we get that data. So all of that is in process. We do it every year. We've also moved, I think, to a much more data-driven way of doing things. We're kind of trying to take the emotion out of bringing about change. Change is hard. We work in a people business. People are very passionate about what they do. And we have to have the mindset that it's a student-centered mindset and student-centered goals. If our students aren't achieving the results that we expect, then it is our fault, because we are the professionals that are hired to do this job, and we have to find a way to do better. Okay? Even the things that are harder for us to control. You know, if we feel like we need a better partnership with parents, obviously we don't control what parents do, but we can certainly reach out and do our best to try to build stronger parent partnerships and help them help us, because they're not teachers. And we have to get better at that. So it depends at each school, and it depends at with each teacher. I think in the last 2 years, we have made much more use of coaching strategies, monitored growth plans, action plans for administrators and teachers and classified staff that work in instructional roles. And our staff has overall responded. We made, I think, a large leap, the data shows, in our middle schools. At 4 of our middle schools, 1 of them regressed, and we're going to work specifically at that school to get that back turned around in the right direction this year. Because it's that one school, then we can allocate a lot more resources to that school. And that's what we're going to do, while we continue to support the other 4. Our high schools took a great jump in the right direction in most areas other than English 2. So we're going to have to allocate a lot more time and resources to English 2, because that's really hurting us in our high schools. But in the other tested areas, in general, overall, we made a good step forward. Graduation rate overall, same thing. I think our improvement in graduation rate can be attributed to the attendance policies that this board approved and held students accountable to being at school more. That helped. We're making better use of our virtual academy for students that are having personal issues that might in the past have caused them to choose to drop out. Now we can tailor a specific option that can work for them, so that hopefully we can get them to graduation. We've done a lot of work in CTE and our pathways in providing internships and using Major Clarity as our software to create more student engagement. I just think overall students are getting more and more in our high schools a plan for their future, and therefore when they're borderline kids of thinking about dropping out to just go to work, we have more tools to say, no, you need to stay, because we can help you with that next step if you stick with us and finish. And I think that's showing results, especially when they can work a job as an internship. All of a sudden their future becomes a lot more real to them. Specifically in elementary school, we've stayed more static over the last few years in 3-5 reading and math. We have done a lot of work in 3-5 reading and math and with our teachers of changing some mindsets across the district. But we've got a lot more work to do. And we're going to be reviewing curriculums. We're going to be working towards implementing our common instructional framework that we built as a team with the principals over last year, that defines standardized grading practices across all of our elementary schools. What are the top instructional strategies that our teachers should be using on a regular basis? And we've required all of our administrators to complete a minimum number of walkthroughs in all classrooms per week, so that we have a better idea of what's happening in those classrooms, and we can adjust in real time. We don't have to wait until the end of the year. So a lot of that work will be explained when the principals present their school improvement plans to you next month for approval. So that'll be coming up, but I just wanted to let you know that we're hungry for success. In 6-12, we took a big jump in the right direction, but we did not reach in general the line in the sand yet that we have to reach in order to meet growth. Okay? And so if we can make the same level of jump in 6-12 this year that we made last year, we're going to have a lot more schools in that area that meet growth. We got more work to do in elementary, and so we're committed to that work.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think up next we have Mr. Gainey. Your policy 3100.
Yeah, so I guess for policy changes, we do 2 readings, so this is the first reading, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
so everybody has had an opportunity, I assume, to review this. I'll just say that there were two principal thrusts to the changes that we made here. One of them was to bring the board in earlier on the assessment of curricula. You know, so often in the past, it was presented to us at the very tail end, sort of under the gun. We need to get it approved so we can move forward and get this implemented. So what we've done is we've moved this forward a minimum of 6 months. In other words, when we get to that point where it has to be ordered, we should have been advised of what the different curricula are that are being considered 6 months prior to that. And having weighed in at that point on whatever the package of curricula are that are being assessed at the instructional level, having weighed in, and we would, at that point, we would just be basically, instructional team would bring it to us. This is the one that we're recommending. We've already looked at it at that point, and we can say, fine, that's the one you want to go. That's it. The other principal motivation behind looking to make to get the board involved. Also, I should say there was a second reason to get us involved earlier on in the process, and that was for the board to be able to apply some to look at not so much the instructional quality of the curricula, but to look at the curricula to make sure that these curricula that are designed for national consumption are consumable in Brunswick County.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them aren't.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had issues with that in the past, where there were some reasons that we felt like we needed in Brunswick in county to maybe make some changes in our curriculum. So those are the 2 things. That's basically what this is about. Y'all, you've seen it.
Yep.
I've given you the cliff notes on it, and we will, I guess, approve it or we will vote on it at our next meeting.
Okay, so just to be clear, you sat down with Mr. Pascal, or who did you, or sat down with somebody as far as the?
Mr.
As far as
Barger
update.
and I met with
Or the superintendent? I mean.
with our superintendent team back in July or something, expressing some concerns about this process, and it was at that point that we began to.
I just want to be clear who was involved with the suggestion, the modifications.
Yes, Mr. Gainey and Mr. Barger were involved in this discussion with me and my team. The board has always had a role in the curriculum adoption process. What we were talking about was changing the sequencing, so that, we wanted to save the staff from any work on a curriculum that might eventually not be approved by the board because maybe the board didn't feel like it aligned with the values of the community. I mean, the board is elected to represent the values of the community.
Correct.
So what we discussed was, well, why don't we just put that on the front end? Because, time is very valuable to the staff. I mean, obviously, if they're teaching classes, they need to be doing lesson plans every day for tomorrow. But we also want them to be involved in the selection of the curriculum that they're going to be using. So what we decided was it would be better if we just put the board more on the front end. Typically, a district level team will select 2 to 3 curriculums that we feel good about, all of them, and then we would push that to a district curriculum selection team that would involve teachers and other staff. They would look at all 3 of those. They would pick the one that they wanted, submit that to us. Then we would submit that to the board for approval. And if the board, for whatever reason, didn't approve that, well, the staff has just done a lot of work. So why not, let's let the board do their part earlier in the process and let them look at all 3 that we're looking at And as long as they're okay with all three, then we push it to the district and school staff to pick the one that they would like.
That makes
And then the
sense.
board can feel good about it.
That makes
Now,
sense.
it does add some time to the process, but in the end, I think it's a process that we can all feel better about.
And this doesn't happen all the time. I mean, it's,
No,
I mean,
no.
it's frequent, but it's, hopefully it doesn't happen a lot, just because then you have to change curriculum all the time and you're
That's-
having to retrain everybody in a new curriculum. So 3 to 5 years, I
That's
mean,
correct.
you know, that seems to be,
3 to 5 years, depending.
that it works, then you gotta start over again, because it didn't work.
And that is per subject.
I mean,
so it's-
unfortunately.
It could
Yeah,
be
per
every
subject.
year.
Right.
It's just, it'll be a different curriculum every year.
Right, so if
in
you
a different
scroll
subject.
back, the ICC, or what, Instructional Level Curriculum Committee, I'm just nitpicky, it says Instructional Level Curriculum Committee, but then it's called the ICC, so should it just be the Instructional Curriculum Committee?
So
Or is that,
so that-
I mean, I know that's very technical.
Instructional Curriculum
Yeah, I
Committee,
thought
that's
same
what
thing.
we are calling the committee once we involve our teachers.
Okay, so in where it
She
says
was
the
saying the
instructional
L should
level.
be capitalized.
Well,
I-
it doesn't even
right.
need to have instructional level curriculum
It
committee,
doesn't
or is it
have to
just,
have-
so the level can be scratched out, the word level, or
I
just leave
think,
it?
I think the word level was, I mean, we could capitalize it if we leave it in,
I
but
mean,
it
I'm
was,
just, you know,
it was to designate the difference between the central office committee and then when we add teachers
I'm
to
just
it.
a spell check.
I got you. I got you. We can,
and
I
then-
think it would probably be beneficial to just leave level in to draw a distinction between the two teams and just capitalize, level.
So those teams will be composed of whoever needs to be on there, as far as middle school, I mean, whoever.
Correct. I mean,
obviously.
typically, we don't force teachers to be a part of a team. It is a lot of additional time, and different teachers have different personal circumstances, but in general, we identify our consistently top-performing teachers in a particular subject area, and they're gonna be the ones that are gonna be invited to be a part
On
of
the
the
committee.
curriculum selection process.
That makes sense.
And we would invite a whole list, and some of them are not gonna wanna do it because of whatever personal reason.
All right. All right, thank you. So consent, or no, section, well,
So,
To be for second
second,
read.
yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, so that concludes the curriculum and policy, and I guess we will call to order the finance and HR. And up first will be, yeah, here we are again. Updates to the child nutrition procurement plans. Smith?
Hello and welcome. Today I'm just here on a consent agenda, just to let you know that our procurement plan was signed back in 2018. And since that time, we've had some changes with some federal regulations on micro purchasing. So I'm just here to present, to ask that we revise our procurement plan to meet the new federal regulations. Micro purchasing is just a procurement method that where we look at, where we can purchase goods or services and we don't have to, receive quotes or, do formal bidding, but we do, distribute any item that we do get, we do distribute it fairly to all our vendors. We're just asking that we go from the 3,000 threshold to 10,000. And so right now, today, I'm just coming to you all just to, as a consent, hopefully on October 7th, you will agree with this and, and approve our new revised school nutrition procurement plan.
So and that's at your, I mean, this is for you, decisions that you make.
Correct.
Not at the school level.
Not at the school level.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
What kinds of things do you normally purchase using the micro purchase method?
There have been times where, maybe a compressor goes bad in a school, so we will have to get a compressor that's probably, $4,000, and, purchase it quickly, right away. We do open it up, we do seek out different vendors within the community with distributors to see where we can purchase this
But if the
item.
refrigerator's down, you wanna go fast.
Oh, yes. We don't have time to wait.
Right.
Is that not is that not technically operations, or is that?
It's
No,
child
it's-
nutrition.
They
So
have their
your,
own,
your
technician.
supplies are,
Yes.
are child, okay.
Yeah,
they
we
have-
So it's
we
not,
repair.
doesn't belong to the school, it
They
belongs
have
to child
an
nutrition.
HVAC technician in their budget.
Yes. So we handle equipment repairs.
Okay.
In a lot of ways, child nutrition operates as like, almost like a separate business.
Right. Right.
Well, you hope the AC doesn't go out just in the kitchen and the rest of the school. I mean, you don't want to go out at all, but that's so.
Well,
So-
we've worked with no AC, but thankfully, Mr. Smith here has helped us out. If it gets a little warm, we have fans, but they've
So-
done a great job.
So child nutrition technically owns the ovens and all that stuff, not the,
Yes.
I mean, it's not, okay.
And we handle
Okay.
everything that's involved in any piece of equipment in the kitchen.
And you have
Yes.
your own technicians.
We do,
Yeah.
yes, I do, which is wonderful, very cost effective, yes.
Well, $3,000 wouldn't buy you much in this time.
It
so
doesn't.
I see why you wanna increase it.
It does in an oven, I mean, if you just think of an oven, just an oven in general is costing you over 20,000. Yes, so that's why we take our piece of equipment, we take care of it, and it lasts for a long period of time, yes. So that's all I have to report today.
Okay, so
Okay,
this will be
thank
for
you.
consent?
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. All right, and then we have some budget amendments from Ms. Weesey.
Good morning.
We're just thankful we have you, people like you that like numbers like this. It's for you.
I don't understand it.
Yeah,
Very
I
exciting
understand it.
stuff here.
a
So
lot
the
of stuff.
state budget amendment number one is actually the initial allotment for the school year based on the budget as it stands now. So this is all of our true ups from where we estimated we'd start out the year to where we actually started out the year with our state funding. So we're just asking that we put this on consent so we can go ahead and get our numbers in line with what the state has actually allotted us at this point. I do expect some adjustment in December once we get our growth numbers in, but as of now, this is what we're working with.
All right, so we'll put that on consent.
And the next item is just moving forward tax refunds that the county booked to our capital budgets at the end of the year last year, so that we have that funding available to spend this year. So it's carryover. And that's all I have on that.
All right, well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we have nothing from Ms. Brosey, right? We're good? Okay. Perfect. All right, so that concludes the finance and HR portion, and I will turn this over to,
Ms. Cook,
Mhm. Yeah.
do you mind, could we, go to
Take a break.
closed first?
Okay.
And then come back to do operations?
All right.
And then you could do your agenda items?
All right, can I have a motion to go to closed session?
motion.
Motion.
Oops, sorry.
Okay, no, Ty, Mr. Barger, a second by Ms. Moffett, second? Well,
That's fine.
all right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. We'll call the meeting back to order.
And you, well,
I'm good, okay. And, if I can, before we get started, have a motion, we'd like to take item number 4 and number 5 and have those for the October committee meeting. So if I have a motion to table those
So
or move them
moved.
to, okay,
Second.
Mr. Gaines, second, all right, by Mr. Parker. And now we will get on to number 1, Mr.
Okay.
Smith.
Okay. All right, the first item is HVAC improvements, Schneider Electric Buildings contract. So you previously approved funding for this procurement method, design build. This is for units at Bolivia Elementary School to be replaced in the 500 building, which is the building closest to the road. We've had numerous issues with these units. We had some issues with humidity as school started this year. We had to spend a good bit of money, do a lot of testing to get conditions right there. This is probably the last remaining huge HVAC issue that we have remaining in the county as far as an entire building to look to replace. These are old, what we call DOAS units. They're the units that are in the roof of the rooms as you go in. They make a lot of noise at times. They're just old. They need replacing, and that's what this contract will do for us. We posted, we got one statement of qualifications. We posted again. We did receive 2, and we have a negotiated price of $2,199,479 for HVAC upgrades at Bolivia. We are looking to see if any of this could be done over Christmas, if they can get the equipment in on time. We're still waiting to hear that. If not, either the rest or all will be done next summer. So this is on consent.
Everybody okay with that?
there'll be some wildly excited teachers at Bolivia when we replace this
Because
system.
it's,
Yes, and operations. Okay, the next item number 2, this is an HVAC contract amendment. So we do have a lot of new HVAC equipment in the county, but at the same time, we do have a lot more units, and we have, these units are a little more high-tech. We do still have issues with scheduling change. We have a ton of scheduling changes. Anytime there's a meeting after school or a special event, you have to go in and change that schedule. We do have more controls now for these units, and there's been a parts increase. And bottom line, we have one HVAC tech in our county for 20 schools, central office operations, 23 areas really, warehouse. And we have had a HVAC position posted for over a year without really any qualified applications, especially licensed people. We just can't get them. They make too much money on the outside. And physically, it would be great if we could hire 2 or 3, but we cannot do that. So we contract our HVAC work out. And they have given us a very good technician. Principals feel very comfortable with. They can call up directly and tell them they have problems, put in work orders, and they're managed by our HVAC tech. He kind of supervises, and under Kim Harmon, their tech, and manages him. And together they really keep us afloat. Last year we had a not to exceed contract for $200,000. And repairs for the first 2 months of this year have exceeded $42,000. We're projected to spend around a little under $300,000, which is about the amount we spent last year. And parts continue to go up. Like I said, it's not the cheapest route, but it's the most efficient route for us to keep our work orders up. So we're asking to make an amendment to the existing contract with Star Plus to increase the not to exceed amount from $200,000 to $300,000 to cover our expenses this year. And that would be on consent if approved.
any questions?
You want it on consent, this says request the board approve it.
No, it should be
You
consent. Our letter says consent.
The recommendation just says,
Approve on
Well,
consent.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should be
Right.
consent.
So approve the amendment, okay.
Yeah, it's
So we're good for
at the top.
consent? Okay.
Just check
This is-
consistency at
yeah.
the top.
Right.
Okay.
And the last item, funding to replace the gym floors at Lincoln and Virginia Williamson. These are two of our older floors in poor condition. We were funded for this July 1st of this year. We could not get the materials and staff in to get it done this summer, but we were able to line it up and schedule it for Christmas break this year. So that's when both those gym floors will be replaced. And that will have all the gym floors elementary replaced in the county except for Union, Olivia, and Supply. Out of 10, we've got new gym floors in the last 5 years for all but those 3 schools. And we'll continue to add those in capital each year. This is a capital funded project. We'll continue to add those in capital the next couple of years till we get them all replaced. And that's for consent. To Southern Flooring for the amount of $118,235.
What's the flooring material being used?
It's a rubberized type spring flooring.
Is that
It's
what's-
not the old like parquet wooden type. These are all a rubberized material. They lay in sections.
What are in those schools now?
Some have old parquet flooring. Some have an old
These two, do you know?
an old
I'm
rubber
just curious.
flooring. Lincoln and they both have rubber.
Okay.
Okay, good for consent. All right. And then we'll skip, I guess, 4 and 5. Are you up for number 6?
Sure. Just
Okay.
open up for whatever we want to talk about. So
You know, pull up the bond,
Do you have that linked?
I'll let Mr. Cole open that statement.
So, members of the board, we attended the county commissioners meeting I believe it was last Monday night, and that was sort of the first discussions, other than our liaison committee over the last few months, which includes myself, our finance officer, our operations director, the county manager, the county finance officer and his assistant, and then the chair and vice chair of both boards. And we've been working with them to communicate our critical needs to take care of our capacity needs over the next 10 years. Those capacity needs are pretty acute. We have shared these numbers several times before based on our demographers' projections each year at each school over the next 10 years, and that by the time we get to years 9 and 10 of this decade, pretty much all of our schools will be over capacity, well over capacity, if we don't build some schools. So it is the county's job to provide us with the facilities we need. But of course, we provide them with a recommendation of specifically what those needs are, along with estimates. When it involves paying for with a bond, of course, it's the county commissioner's decision about how they fund the facilities that we need. A public school bond is a way to do that. It's the cheapest way of doing it for the taxpayer. But ultimately, it is the commissioner's decision about how they decide to provide us with our needs. And they also have to vote to approve to allow a bond referendum to go on the ballot and when it can go on the ballot. So that's where we've been, that's where we are now in the discussions. And then finalizing our list of projects for the bond that we feel will meet our capacity needs and also be the best bang for the buck for the taxpayer. On this list, you will see we have always said that the most acute need for the next few years is going to be in the north region of the county. I don't think anyone would argue with the fact that that has been the fastest growing area of the county over the last 15 years. That isn't to say that the whole county isn't growing. It is. It just so happens that we've had more growth in the last decade in the north region. We also, for whatever reason, have more capacity for additional students in our middle schools right now than we do in our elementary schools and our high schools. So that impacts what our needs are in the next decade. And the commissioners communicated to us as well that they would like to limit bond referendums to once every 10 years. And our last bond referendum was in 2016, so obviously next year we'll be at that point in 2026. So our initial list that we submitted to the commissioners, we focused on just schools for the most part and the land to build them on. And it was based on the idea that we would have one bond referendum for this upcoming decade. We received some feedback from the commissioners last Monday night to consider, and they asked us to go back and take a look at changing some things. So we have reworked this list. So just to go step by step, first on the list is an elementary school in the north region of the county. We eliminated some pre-K classrooms from the plan, which obviously would have an impact on the square footage of the school. We also have been interviewing construction management at risk companies over the last week or two, and we've received more up-to-date information on construction costs. So we made an adjustment along with our architect on our estimated per square foot costs. So that had an impact and changed the estimated price of the elementary school. But this would be a 750 student elementary school in the north region. And that's what we would build first, so it's in phase 1 of the bond. And we would begin work on that immediately after an approved bond. As a matter of fact, we're working on it right now with funds that this board has allocated to the architect on the planning side of things. So that would be $83,900,000. The land that we would build that on is just over $5.5 million. That is in the first phase as well. We've added in a phase 2 section. This is the same as before, $234 million estimate to build a high school in the north area that would pull from North Brunswick and South Brunswick. This would be a high school that has a core capacity of 1,700 students, but an initial capacity of 1,400 students. That just means that it would have a cafeteria and a gym and an auditorium possibly that would meet the needs of a 1,700 student population, so that initially we would build it for a 1,400 student capacity, but we could add buildings later to make it larger in order to deal with growth in the future, which we are certain to have. We've included 74 acres of land at a property that we refer to as 7 States North. That piece of property would be for the high school. That's at $1.66 million. We've also included 40 acres of an optional purchase at Jackie's Creek that would be a future middle school site for the second decade. It could be built adjacent to the first elementary school that we build. We've included bleachers, indoor bleachers for all of our high schools, as well as Shallotte Middle, Leland Middle, South Brunswick Middle. And that's because the indoor bleachers, wooden bleachers at the middle schools are, I think, the original bleachers that came with the school, and they break a lot. They're not really up to current code, and they need to be replaced. The high school bleachers were replaced about 25 years ago. In around 2000, they are the synthetic bleachers, but they're in pretty bad shape as well and need to be replaced. We have an estimate right around $2 million of that. Next is Shallotte Middle School, a multi-purpose turf field for their football field at $1.3 million. Shallotte Middle is unique to our 5 middle schools in that our other middle schools have county fields that are also used for our school sports, which gives us multiple fields to use for practice and games. Shallotte Middle is unique in that they don't have a county field to use, so everybody, including the community and rec sports, uses the field at Shallotte Middle. And now that we've added lacrosse, which is another field sport, we are not able to keep grass on that field. It's just getting eat up. And we feel like that is a unique situation where the community as well as the school would benefit from a turf field at that middle school, and just that middle school. Next, we've added a softball field house at South Brunswick High School. Now, we call it a field house because it would serve as, it's one building that would be a press box, a locker room for the softball team, a concession stand, and bathrooms for people attending the game, all in one building. This is what we have at West Brunswick High School and North Brunswick High School. This would build something at South that would be equitable with what we have at West and North. Right now, we have that figure at $1 million to do that. Next is an extension of Governor's Road at the Town Creek complex. Currently, there's one way in and one way out at Town Creek. That road tends to flood when we have heavy rains, making it difficult to use Town Creek. Town Creek is also a shelter, but if you can't get in and out of it, it's not a very effective shelter.
So this would not be an extension of Governor's Road, it would be an extension of the road the school's on to Governor's Road.
That is
The
correct.
internal.
Sorry, yes, it would be, it should be an extension to Governor's Road instead of Governor's.
Yeah, I don't want it to look like we're in the.
That's, yeah, we're not
the road
building
business.
a DOT highway.
Yeah.
What we are doing is connecting the Rice, I think it's Rice
Right.
Rice Creek
Parkway
Parkway.
to Governor's Road, which would give us two ways in and out of the Town Creek complex. And that gives us some options when we have storms. It also gives us some options as our student population grows in that area of the county. Obviously, Town Creek Elementary has been growing exponentially. Town Creek Middle will as well. At some point, we're going to have to consider dividing the traffic coming in and out to those schools possibly, and that would give us some options. It also gives options to emergency vehicles if something were to happen right at pickup or drop-off time, because that campus, Rice Parkway, gets very jammed up at pickup and drop-off. Next, we have a countywide intercom replacement that we've plugged in at $2.9 million. All of our intercom systems are obsolete. We can't get parts for them anymore. We're kind of at the point now when something breaks, we have to pay to have custom parts made to keep them going. We would like to replace these systems with more of a cloud-based intercom system at all of our schools, which will be cheaper and more efficient to run. And it will get us all using the same parts at all of our schools, which will make maintenance a lot easier. Next, kind of going along with this, at Bolivia, Jessie May, Leland Middle, South Brunswick Middle, Southport, Union, and VW, we would like to replace the data wiring of those buildings because, again, those systems are obsolete. They need to be updated. That is also a cost that we're estimating right now at $2.9 million. And then that last line is something that this board has spoken about quite a bit, is trying to get ahead of the curve, if we can, on land for future school sites that we know we're going to need. If you look at how many homes have been approved to be built in Brunswick County, it's over 50,000 right now. And I want to be clear with the public that we're buying land at Jackie's, we're in purchase agreements to buy land at Jackie's Creek, which is a development, as well as at Seven States, which is a separate development. We would need these schools if not one house was ever built in either one of those developments. These two schools are to meet the needs that we see coming because of homes that have already been built or have already been approved to be built, not for future developments. Because I see a lot of chatter online about, against future development and that sort of thing. And obviously, I'm not going to weigh in on that. That's not my issue. My issue is providing for the needs that are coming along because of what has already been approved. So I just want to be clear about that with the public, that if someone flipped the switch and stopped development tomorrow in Brunswick County, that would not change the fact that we need these schools, and actually we're going to need a second elementary school. And the county will have to look at how they want to fund that probably 6 to 8 years from now. So I just wanted to be very clear about that. So there are other areas of the county. The central region of the county is growing. Our two schools that were actually most substantially over projections this year were Cedar Grove and Supply. So the central part is going to continue to grow, and eventually the western region is going to grow as well. Land is as cheap now as it is ever going to be. So if somehow we can use some funding from this bond for us to purchase some land for future schools, that would be in the taxpayer's best interest. Because if you wait and you buy it 10 years from now, when people have already moved to those locations, the land is going to be exponentially more expensive. And then I've included site development as well as land purchases, because we know we're going to need a second elementary school that we've cut from this bond list. If we can use the leftover funds after all of these projects to go ahead and get started on the site development for where we know we're going to build that second elementary school, then that will make any kind of bond referendum or local option bond that the county uses, 6 to 8 years from now to build that second elementary school, it'll be cheaper if we can use those funds. So right now I have the list at $363,200,000, and the bond, if approved, would go on the ballot for next November, and it will be paid out in 3 phases. And that's what I have.
So while the two new schools are gonna be going on the north end of the county, there is county-wide benefit to the whole bond, though.
Yes.
That was the big thing, is making sure that our residents across the county and our students across the county all saw a benefit in the bond.
And I guess on a related note too, because I also heard some chatter that, if we build these schools on these developments, all they're gonna do is serve the people that move to those developments. That is not true. That's not the way our attendance lines get drawn. And obviously, there are no houses on either of those developments right now, and probably won't be for at least a little while. It's gonna take them a while to build out those developments. So those schools will meet the needs of that entire region of the county, not just those developments.
I hate to say any questions.
Well, being
But I
that
mean, it's,
it looks like the county was not in favor of this going on in March. There's really no reason for this board to carry a vote to approve this list unless we anticipate still trying to pursue a March referendum.
Yeah, I'm not sharing this as an action item today. I just thought I needed to update the board on, we listened to feedback from the commissioners, we've made adjustments, and I wanted y'all to see what those adjustments were and be able to discuss them. You don't have to approve this bond list, you can give us some feedback over the next couple of weeks. This board could, if you wanted to, you could decide to let the community give you some feedback, or however you wanted to do it. That's
What did we determine to be the period at which the commissioners would have to act for us to do a March referendum?
They told us that in order for it to go on the ballot in March, we would have to let them know before October, I think it was October 6th or 7th is when they have their next meeting.
By their
Because-
next meeting?
Yes, and if, they would have to approve it at their next meeting, which is October 6th.
I think December was when it had to go to the Board of Elections to be placed on the ballot.
Correct. So we've got some time if we're, not if we're trying to get it on the March ballot. The feedback I heard last Monday night, it didn't sound like there were votes there, but for a March ballot. But, ultimately, that's up to this board of how quickly you want to decide on a list and approve it or not approve it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know that it's been, stated in, I know it wasn't stated at the previous commissioners meeting, and we haven't said anything about it at any of our meetings, because this is the first one we've had since then. But it's important to note that if we do not act on this referendum until November, and in the off chance it should not pass, we would not be able to revisit it until March of 2028, and that's a totally untenable position for the school board to be put in.
Yeah, especially
Or
with
not the
number
school
of
board,
students
for
in-
the school district to be put in.
With the number of students in modular classrooms and, you know, if there's no, if this project list looks good to the school board, I would have no problem with us carrying a vote to approve it today. That way, we could still potentially put us in a position for March if they would approve it.
I think, I would prefer maybe that we wait at least a week or two
Okay.
and maybe
Feedback.
get some feedback. You guys, if you chose, you could do a special called meeting, just for this, to approve it, for me to send over to, the county, for them to get it on their agenda for October 6th, if that's what you wanted to do. But I feel like maybe, let's give it a week or two.
And how many students do we have in mobile classrooms right now?
We have,
9 at Belleville.
9 at Belleville's our big one. We use the number 20 per classroom, so, that's 180.
Just
We
at
have,
Belleville.
Just at Belleville.
4 at Union that are active starting this school year, so that's 80. We have 2 at Lincoln that are active, that's 40. We have 2 more coming online next month at Lincoln, so that will be 80 at Lincoln. We have 1 at BW that we got in last summer, so that's 20 there. And I do believe, Town Creek, what are they using those for? They're not using those for regular use. So that
What
should
about
be
Leland
all
Middle
that are
School?
active.
That
It's
modular.
10.
Leland Middle,
It's a 10 room.
we don't use those for
No.
regular classrooms, though.
They're not
No.
yet.
Yeah.
So
We
that-
will be, but not yet.
We don't have any at middle school or
So
I
we have
believe high
400
school.
students roughly in mobile classrooms.
That's probably a good estimate right
And we
now.
project that we're gonna have to add 2 per year at Belleville and I think at Lincoln over the next 2. So that'll be 8 more that we add over the next 2 years at those 2 schools.
Well,
And,
also running out of
and
money.
we're looking at Union and 2 options there. Either could you move the 5th grade over to Charlotte Middle, or would we add or lease a modular unit out there? We just got a quote for an 8-room modular out there, because if they continue to grow by next year, they're gonna need something out there to put students.
And what was the quote for that modular classroom?
To lease it for 2 years would be around $750,000.
And we spent $150,000 to move one this year. And
Yeah.
then $300,000.
That would be a 8-room modular building
Yeah,
for 2 years.
so it drives the cost up.
That's not
It's still-
optimal at all.
No.
Well, and what I would, and this is the points I made at the commissioners meeting, is that there are other limiting factors when you talk about just keep adding kids to a school that is already over capacity. I mean, like, right now, I think first lunch at Belleville starts at like 10:20, 10:30, something like that.
It'll be a little later, but they start later.
Yeah,
So
okay, they
go-
start
go-
later in the morning.
And then they go later.
You can only serve so many kids at a time in a cafeteria, and we can't build a larger cafeteria. So you're limited by that factor. You're limited by the size of the gym. We get tons of complaints about traffic at our schools, particularly in the North region at North Brunswick, Leland Middle, Belleville, Lincoln, Bolivia, at pickup and drop-off times, because the traffic gets backed up out onto the main highway. That's what happens when you keep adding kids to a building that was designed for less capacity than what you're using it for. The reason why it's not working great is because it wasn't designed to handle that many kids. And you can only do that for so much. The only way we can clear up traffic is to create more queuing on the campus or to build another school. And, at most of our campuses, Bolivia doesn't have room for more traffic queuing. North Brunswick High School doesn't have room for more traffic queuing.
Yeah.
We're gonna do some work at Leland Middle, to do what we can to help there. But Belleville, there's no more room for traffic
You
queuing.
get into stormwater issues,
That's
get
right.
into DOT issues.
So, there are other limiting factors when you can't just keep adding kids to schools that were designed for much less. At some point, you gotta build new schools. That's where we are in the northern region of the county. We've still got some capacity that we could move some kids around and use in the central and south regions of the county and the western region. But in the north, we don't have that option because of the amount of growth that they've had.
Well, and also in the schools, you have limited resources for the art class room and the gym and the
EC
music
classes.
room, the EC classes. It's just, it creates such a snowball effect. You just can't house that many kids.
And then what about the safety for tornadoes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's correct.
And trailers deteriorate. We just
Yeah.
spend a pretty good bit of money refurbishing our units at Belleville that, we found some problems with, and in the tens of thousands of dollars total that we're putting back in just to get those kind of refurbished to acceptable level. But they, modulars deteriorate quickly.
The modulars are very expensive Band-Aids.
Yep.
They don't work.
And then when you
long
sell them
term.
off and you're done with them, they're not worth much money.
No.
So this is more for information, you'd like to have the board reconvene to consider
Yes.
approving the project list.
Yeah. Give you time to think about it, get some feedback.
When you come back and we go, to reconsider it, can you give us some options on how to move without negatively impacting the projected tax implications? How we can move the turf field, the field house, and the bleachers into phase one?
Yes, yes, sir.
Because I think it's important to bring those projects online sooner rather than later.
For benefit of everyone in the county to get everything moving.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Any
Thank
other,
you.
all right?
Did we approve
Any other?
the personnel?
No, we didn't. Okay, since we have come back into open session, we need to motion to approve the personnel list.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Barger,
Second.
second, Mr. Gainey, all in favor?
Aye.
So